Welcome to part 5 of our 6-part series, Debunking the Creationist article, Is Evolution Scientific?, published on the website of Creation Ministries International. With a name like Creation Ministries International, it has to be bogus. The 5th section of the article is, so they claim, fraudulent evidences used to promote the theory of evolution. The first is, of course, Piltdown Man, which I've already debunked in a previous video. This video can be seen in the special features menu of this disc. Another one they mention is Nebraska Man. This wasn't a hoax, just a mistake. Geologist Harold Cook found a tooth in Nebraska in 1917 that seemed to resemble a tooth of Homo erectus. But when further field work was done at the site, it was revealed to be a tooth from a skeleton of an extinct genus of peccary, a family that includes pigs and hippos. This was an easy mistake to make since the teeth of pigs and humans, both being omnivores, are very similar. Further, this tooth was from an extinct species no one had seen, and it just so happened that the size of the beast made his teeth the same size as human teeth. There was never any general acceptance of Nebraska Man as a Homo erectus in the scientific community. This picture, which creationists claim is a drawing of Nebraska Man, is really a depiction of Java Man, the same species the tooth was originally speculated to belong to. They did not extract this entire figure from a single tooth, as the creationists claim. They also mentioned the peppered moths, repeating the creationist contention that the photos were staged. But since the photos were only staged for purposes of demonstrating the contrast of the two species, this is hardly evidence of fakery. The truth is, the peppered moth study has been repeated many times over, and confirmed by multiple independent researchers. There's nothing fraudulent about it at all. Many creationists and ID proponents have acknowledged this, and simply relegated the peppered moth example to microevolution, their typical out for actual evidence for evolution. Another example they use is Ernst von Haeckel's embryo drawings. This is creationist hand-waving at its best, or worst depending on your point of view. Developmental evolutionists soon learned that much of what Haeckel formulated was indeed wrong. This happens in science and is probably the most important conclusion to take from this part. These hoaxes and mistakes were uncovered by evolutionary scientists, not creationists. Haeckel got the ball rolling on developmental evolution, but he also sent it down a dead end. His biogenetic law, which is what he was trying to prove by faking the drawings, has nothing to do with evolution. It is not based on evolution, nor does evolution depend on it in any way. It was based on Lamarckian theory, not Darwinian. Throwing out biogenetic law just means that scientists recognize a bad thing when they see it, just like when they threw out creationism and intelligent design. Modern embryology has properly developed what Haeckel was trying to study. There are both many similarities and many differences in embryos of different species. The key point is that the differences are few in the early stages, growing more and more different as the embryo develops, and the way it does so matches perfectly with the nested hierarchy of evolution. Creationists look at this, and the fact that it is taught in modern textbooks, and try to associate it with Haeckel in order to discredit it. In reality, modern embryology differs from Haeckel as much as Darwinian theory differs from Lamarckian. The one they mention still left to cover is Archeoraptor. This is a hoaxed fossil showing an apparent half-bird, half-dinosaur. Ignoring the fact that there are numerous genuine fossils of dinosaur-bird transitions, this fossil wasn't even hoaxed by an evolutionist. It was hoaxed by a Chinese farmer simply because a complete fossil usually gets more money than 2 incomplete fossils. Such fraud has been known to happen from time to time and unfortunately damages many potentially valuable fossils. The only reason the creationists ever heard of this one is that National Geographic published a cover article about it to much fanfare. But although National Geographic is a great magazine for popularizing science, it is not a peer-reviewed publication. If it had been, if they had only waited for the conclusions of their own experts, they would have known it was a hoax within months. Not only were the feet easily shown to be a perfect mirror image, meaning that the hoaxer had simply used the counterslab for the opposite foot, a CT scan of the fossil revealed that the top and bottom parts came from different fossils.
I'm going to show you 2 slices. The first is this slice here, through the skull and these other elements here. And the second slice will be back through the ankle and through the tail, through this critical region here, through one of the legs. Now when we go to these slices, here's what we see. Here's the skull. And we can see the skull is part of this upper layer of shale. And With this, you can see the fracture pattern here. Here's some very tight fractures that fit together. Here, a pair of curved fractures, one fitting against the next, a straight fracture. The pieces on either side are the same thickness, they're the same density. But when we get out here to the very edge of the block, this piece is a little bit thicker than the piece it's glued against. It's also a little denser than the piece it's glued against. Now, as we move down to the tail, to the critical area, we can see that it's completely surrounded by grout, and that there are no natural ties between the tail piece and this piece to the right or this piece to the left. In fact, it's just swimming in this ocean of grout here. And as we mapped through the entire specimen, we found that there are no verifiable fits between the tail and any of the other parts anywhere else in the specimen.
At the same time, Chinese researcher Zhu Jing, working completely independently, found the counterslab of one of the fossils used to make the hoax. Before National Geographic published the findings on October 15, 1999, Nature had already rejected the findings on August 20. Archeoraptor was never published in any peer-reviewed scientific journal. The most interesting part of this is that the two main fossils used to create the hoax were from two previously undiscovered dinosaur bird transitionals. The head and the upper body belonged to Eunornis, an ancestor of modern birds from the early Cretaceous, and the tail to Microraptor, a small dinosaur with wings and feathers that predated Eunornis by 5 to 10 million years and is the first known example of a tree-dwelling dinosaur. It's not yet known what species the legs and feet belong to.
The fake fossil was a commercial fraud, but a scientific goldmine. The upper portion was a bird with dinosaur features, and the tail was a dinosaur with bird-like characteristics. It was not one, but two creatures, showing all the evolutionary characteristics of a missing link.
Both of these specimens are scientifically significant, and they were nearly lost to science, and two scientifically significant specimens were combined into one deceptive whole in the favor of the greater commercial value of that whole.
Dinosaurs were animals that did give rise to another group of animals, birds. They're still incredibly successful animals today. And in fact, under modern biological or paleontological classification, we would consider birds as part of the Dinosauria.
The faked fossil sold in 1999 for $80,000. It seemed at the time an enormous sum of money. Today, it's back in China and valued at over $1 million. A fossil that once fooled the world is now helping science unravel one of the biggest mysteries in evolution.
So, of their 5 examples of hoaxes, only 2 of them actually were deliberate fabrications. Of course, even if every single one of these had turned out to be complete undeniable hoaxes, it would still do nothing to refute the mountains of evidence showing the development of life through mutation and natural selection. If that were the case, if the mere presence of hoaxes is enough to discount a theory, then creationism would be dead and buried, as the creationists commit hoax after hoax to try to gain support. Everything from forged human tracks in the Paluxy River and Tuba City dinosaur tracks to Kent Hovind and his ilk telling one lie after another about science, including lies about cosmology, thermodynamics, and many other sciences that have nothing whatsoever to do with evolution, to Ben Stein and the Expelled producers lying about scientists being fired for their religious beliefs, and even including outright perjury in open court. All of this was done by creationists specifically for the purpose of supporting their side, a claim that cannot be made for any of the hoaxes on the evolution side. When all the evidence is examined, it's clear that evolutionary scientists discover hoaxes and dismiss them, while creationists create and embrace hoaxes of their own and very, very rarely, if ever, give them up. So is evolution supported by accurate information? Check. In the 6th and final part, we'll look at what they claim are the presuppositions of evolution as well as their bogus conclusions.